Hey, what is up guys, Madison Tech here, and today we have a Android phone that is $40. Now you're not gonna hear a $40 Android smartphone actually, existing but not working, but this is a $40 Android smartphone that I bought and it works. It works, but not the best way possible. So this phone is actually called the BLU C6L, and this phone is, you can buy it from Best Buy right now, and this phone offers a 60Hz display, 1 GB of RAM, and 16 gigs of storage, and a 5.5-inch HD display with a 1.4 quad gigahertz processor, and it offers the batteries a 2500 mAh battery. So this phone on paper doesn't seem bad, but with the 16 gigs of storage and the 1 gig of RAM, that's pretty bad. But this phone itself is a $40 Android phone, and I don't think you can expect that much for this being, that price. And really now that is just not going to be, our biggest, highest beliefs. But this is a $40 Android smartphone, and let's just start off where we're going to get into the box. What we get in the box is basically, first of all, we're gonna get a green box that's gonna say BLU6SL, and it's going to say the specs at the back with all the bad specs. But this is a $40 Android smartphone, new, and you're gonna come out with the boxes. You're gonna get the phone with the plastic frame and the sticker that you can peel off. But before I did that, I would want to go put it in the case, see if it fits the case. But it took a bit of a while for me to put it on because I didn't really know how to put this thing on, because it was a really bad case. But I figured out how to do it, just pulling the sides out a bit and putting it back in. And one of the other things we can get into the box is we get a plug, a micro USB charger, and that's pretty old. Micro USB chargers. I wish it was USB Type C, but yeah, it's whatever. And we get a headphone jack and a design that looks pretty good with a pretty good case. And I don't think that for this phone being $40, I think this is more being worth that $60. The thing is, we can actually know if this thing's gonna be $40 if we use it in. But the outside looks like a more expensive phone. The build looks like a more expensive phone, but we get to know how high this thing is $40 by going inside the phone and seeing how the thing actually handles performance. But out of all of this was announced in January 2029, and that time this was a really big budget phone. Like, not a big budget phone, but this was like a budget phone for 2029 users. And by getting this thing was a budget phone for being 2029, I think it was not going to be that good for most people in 2025 or even 2024. But I think is the phone itself doesn't look like to be a $40 Android phone, because this phone, for what it's offering, honestly, the build, the quality, and overall the display and some of the features you get is more of a more expensive phone. But as we get into using the phone and actually living with the phone, we can notice why this is $40. But let's start off with the good things, and the bad things will go later on. So the good things is the battery and the camera. We get a 2500 mAh battery, and paired with the 720p display, you get in a 5.5-inch display with not good, brightness. The brightness only pops at 200 nits of brightness, and that's not going to be pretty good. But with that all being with this battery, the battery is going to last pretty good. And with the camera on paper, you're going to laugh when I tell you it's an 8 megapixel mean and a 5 megapixel front facing camera, and that's going to be very, on paper that's pretty bad. But as we take pictures with this thing, the camera itself, I think, I don't know, maybe it's the way how it processes things on the device, and maybe if it's like, I don't know, but it's pretty good. Just the way that it takes the pictures, and you would be pretty surprised for this being an 8 megapixel main with a 5 megapixel front facing camera. You would be surprised what pictures this thing can take, and overall with that. And the battery itself is, you would get about maybe 4 hours screen on time, that's pretty bad. But for this price and for the camera, for the battery specs, it's going to be pretty good. But as the thing is, let's get into the bad. This thing is pretty freaking slow. It is the slowest thing I've ever used in my life. It's a 1.4 gigahertz quad core processor, 1 gig of RAM, and 16 gigs of internal storage, with a AMD A53 with a Mali 400 GPU. With all these processors and the RAM and the storage, This thing is just the slowest thing I've ever used in my life. You can't play games without this thing just stuttering or glitching. Play a game that's more than 30 FPS, you'll want to throw the phone in the garbage. And the thing is, like, this phone is not meant for gaming. It's only meant for reading news articles and stuff like that. And this phone was actually released in 2019, and that time this phone was actually a really low-end budget phone. It was just very low-end, budget phone at that time. Just imagine how this thing would hold up in 2025. Like, it's a 6 years like different. And I think that if this phone was pretty bad in 2029, it's gonna be even worse in 2025. But this phone is going to have the biggest thing that you were going to notice when you get this phone is this phone, like, it doesn't have the best security updates. But actually, when I got it, when I got it from the package, it had so many security updates up until 2022. And this thing only stayed on Android 8, by the way, but it had a bunch of security updates. But this phone, I think if you put your personal information on, I think you'll go into, some Chinese hackers or something like that. So yeah, this thing, for personal information, I don't trust it with. So that's why I put a pretty limited source of stuff on it. But I think you could trust it, but for me and my personal using, I didn't trust it. But I think usually you'd be able to trust it, but not for me. But this phone is a $40 Android smartphone. You have to put that in your mind. It's a new $40 Android smartphone, and not the new as in the year new, just the new as in the package new. Like, you can get this thing brand new if you go in right places. And I got this thing from Best Buy. In total, it was about 50, but when I first got it, it was 40. Like, in the actual thing, not counting shipping and everything. But yeah, it was only $40, and I feel like that this phone, if you were able to, maybe if you could do some optimizations with it, maybe if you can, root it a bit, I think you could get some good stuff with it. But yeah, so that's me reviewing a $40 Android smartphone. And tell me in the comments if you guys would dislike this phone, or why would you like this phone. But make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. See you guys in the next one, and you'll see me, and I'll see you.